Okay, that's fine.
Hey, how you doing? Long time no see.
Hey brother, how you doing?
Oh, okay. Facebook. That's where. Yeah, you post on Facebook.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm a voyeur. I look.
You look
Keep
but
up.
don't say.
I don't. Yeah, you know. Well, I do. That is good. I diagnosed with diabetes, so I'm down. I gotta get another. Like I gotta get two. Yeah, it's just. what somebody's willing to pay. So,
I'd like to welcome everyone to the State of the City here. We always love this event. If everyone could please stand for the singing of the first verse of American Musical.
Let us please bow our heads and pray. Dear Lord, please bless this gathering of Rotarians and their guests today as we hear the good news of our community. We thank you for giving the wisdom to our elected and appointed leaders to pursue a thoughtful future with the joint efforts of public and private partnerships in this region of northern Ohio that has been so bountifully blessed by you with its natural beauty. Lord, we thank you for blessing our forebears who founded this city 2 centuries ago, and we ask that you give our current leaders the foresight to continue to build on those dreams. And we ask for your blessings for those who prepared and served our meals today, as we give thanks to those who serve us as public officials as they practice service above self. Amen.
Thank you, Vice President Mesa. Chris, now with the introduction of today's Rotarian guests, President-elect Jim White.
Thank you, President Josh. Welcome to everyone. I know we can't announce every single guest that we have here today, but I'm going to highlight some of our visiting Rotarians and guests of our Rotarians today. We have Sarah Ross, visiting from the Vermilion Club. And I'll run down the list we have here, and just please hold your applause to the end. When I announce your name, please just give a wave. We have Chad Hanging, guest of Molly Carver. We have Davin Jacobs, guest of City Schools. We have Kelly Cusack, guest of Amy Kurtz. We have Tyler Franklin, guest of Lou Schultz. We have Dale Buchel, guest of Carol Brown. We have Bill Monahan, guest of Judy Monahan. We have Kevin Keeper, guest of Jeff Rosengarten. We have Rich Poehler, guest of Rich Poehler. We have Sherry Mastriani, guest of Elaine Colvin. We have Jude Guerra, guest of Ron Guerra. We have Alex Jones, and he is a guest of our club.
All right, we're trying to find a mic that works around here. A couple announcements from the club here. Next week, we will not have a meeting here. We will have the Mesa Bike Tour event over at Sawmill Creek at the Granary. So we are a kickoff host city for the Mesa Bike Tour. We will have a Rotary After 5 event from 5 until 7 at the Granary. If I could, any Rotarians that are planning on attending, we're going to do this grade school wise. Please have a show of hands if you plan on attending the meeting or the Rotary After 5 on the 31st next week. All right, thank you. It kind of gives me an idea of how much food we should have. And then the next morning, morning June 1st, we're going to have a breakfast over at Firelands Regional Medical Center. That's going to be at 7:30 in the morning. And then the bikers are going to depart, and they're going to make their trip to the Bellevue Club. So. Another announcement, Habitat for Humanity build. Habitat for Humanity, if you been seeing the paper, they're building their 100th house. So in honor of our 100th anniversary, we're going to help them build that house. So that will be the morning of the 2nd. Any Rotarians wishing to help build, there are sign-up sheets there at the back. And we'll start sharp at 7:45 in the morning. We're going to have lunch provided, and hopefully we'll be working until about 2:30 in the afternoon. The address is 2204 Wilbur Street. That's 2204 Wilbur Street. So June 2nd, Habitat for Humanity, 7:45. And Lisa with the Cedar Point announcement on the 7th.
Also, there's a sign-up sheet for Cedar Point Day, and that is June 7th, so the following week. Today is the last day to sign up. So please, Rotarians, the sign-up sheets are back there by the buttons in the back. So just put your names down if you're not, and you can double check and make sure you are signed up. If you did sign up, you should have already gotten an email from me with your gift code to purchase your ticket. So any questions, give me an email or make sure you sign up.
Thank you, Vice President Lisa. Alrighty, now I'd like to open up to the floor for any announcements and happy bucks. Anybody happy out there? Alright, a little light today. Alright, we'll move right along to trivia with David. Any trivia?
We have a lot of exciting things going on in Sandusky. However, we have had some adverse situations in the past. Also, history sometimes repeats itself. Remember, there were 2 police chiefs that were fired by 2 different city managers. The chiefs then ran and were elected city commissioners, and they subsequently fired the city manager. So here's a piece of history I would like to see repeated. We have a park at the foot of Columbus Avenue. In my opinion, it is a dumb layout, should never have been built there, and took up valuable parking spaces that will certainly be needed when there is more activity in downtown Sandusky. In fact, if you sit on one of the benches there, all you can see is concrete. Years before, there was another park at the foot of one of our streets. The city felt it impeded traffic and had it torn down. Where was that park and who built it?
Voltaire Scott.
Voltaire Scott at the foot of Wayne Street.
Thank you, Dave. And now let's go to Tavern.
Thanks, Josh. For our guest today, we always traditionally do tavern trivia. It doesn't mean I go to taverns or anything, but just an interesting side note. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was a little local tavern in Sandusky, and it was on the corner of Jefferson and Payne. Whoa! Who was that? Man, well done. It was called Bai's Tavern on the corner of Jefferson and Camp Street. Well done. It was on my paper route. Right across the street, of course, we have Wicker State, and that was originally built as Shooters. What did it become after Shooters?
J.J. Muskie.
J.J. Muskie's. Very good, Mike. Well done. I want to thank Rich Holler for this one because I had no answer for this. He told got it for me. There used to be a French restaurant where on the corner of Butler and Cleveland Road. Dan Lee had it back in the day. What was it called? That's a tough.
Italian Garden.
That was close by. You said that, Aguero? What was that place called? It had high-deck seats in there. Escargot. Say on Takers? All right. I believe it was also on the corner where Boys and Girls Clubs was at one time. It was called Le Gourmet. Yeah. Le Gourmet. And our last one today is not local, but I always do a rock and roll classic 60s or 70s. In the classic song by Steely Dan called My Old School, what university is mentioned in that song, in the lyrics? My Old School by Steely Dan. No takers today? All right. William and Mary was in it. So there you go, John.
Thank you very much, Tom. Always entertaining. Now, let's, without further ado, let's move along to today's program. And we have introductions by Vice President Lisa Bull.
Thank you, President Josh. So today, thank you so much for everyone who are attending. We are very, very fortunate to be able to host all of you today. We are having our Save the City, as all of you know already. I have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Dennis Murray, and then Commissioner Murray will actually then further proceed on his introduction. So without further ado, Dennis Murray. Dennis has been a trial lawyer for the law firm of Murray & Murray since 1987. He holds a bachelor's degree from Georgetown University and also a law degree from Georgetown University. Dennis currently serves as the president of the City Commission and has since January 2014. He previously represented Sandusky as a city commissioner from 2006 to 2008, serving as president in 2008. He was then elected to the Ohio House of Representatives from 2009 to 2012. Dennis also serves as a member of the Ohio Constitutional Modernization Commission. Dennis and his wife Martha have 4 children and are proudly active with the Sandusky City Schools and the Sandusky Catholic community in various capacities. Please help me welcome Dennis Murray.
Thank you. On behalf of the city and my colleagues, Commissioner Twain, I know Lloyd is here, Dave Waddington, and Dick Brady. I don't think there's anyone else, but on behalf of all of those folks, and really especially on behalf of the city employees who are really proud of what they're doing today, we appreciate the opportunity to showcase a little bit of what we've been doing over the last year. For almost 4 years now, Eric Wolfser, Dick Brady, and I have gathered for twice a month for a gourmet lunch in the city's executive dining room. And for those who have not seen that room, it's a 3-foot round table in the corner of Eric's office. And the food is usually brought by Commissioner Brady, consisting rather repetitively of turkey toms, but it's good. Now, we update at this meeting each other on what has occurred since our last meeting and share what we've learned out in the community. We go over that night's commission meeting agenda. And this is where the meetings get interesting. For this is the part of the meeting where we turn to what we were hearing about the priorities of various commissioners, and then where staff wants to head next. And as an ER doc once said to me, he said there are a huge number of ER visits that are preceded by, watch this, hold my beer. The walls are not thick in Eric's office, and I am sure many outside have heard exclamations such as, "You want to do what?" That is impossible, and this time you've taken complete leave of your senses. And those go both ways. And yet, and especially because of an amazing staff, we have repeatedly found ways to collaborate and move the city forward over the last 4 years. Just a few times, the gray hairs in that room of 3, those who belong to Cousin Brady, have had to caution Speed Racer here to slow down or risk careening off the road. But more often than not, he instead convinced us to climb into the back seat. When the Bicentennial Commission was created in early 2014, the city had just made its most painful and largest budget cuts in its history. Even bigger cuts were on the horizon. All of that changed, as you know, over the next 4 years with the passage of Issue 8, the creation of a bicentennial vision and strategic plan, and since then the city has progressively executed on that plan. But Sandusky's success as a government has been way outstripped by what's occurred here in our community. The real difference is all of you. As the city's vision came into focus, it was all of you who volunteered and invested and put your shoulder to the wheel. You have invested in your homes as code enforcement and city housing programs have made that smarter investment. You invested in education at our school with the largest building project in Blue Street history. You've invested in your businesses, keeping jobs here and creating new ones. You volunteered your time to clean up Sandusky and to guide planners as we polish existing parks and public spaces and even dare to dream of new public spaces. You make the difference between what would just be a collection of buildings and a real community. Sandusky is indeed a very special place with a proud history and diverse culture. Even as we celebrate past and present success, we are tackling new, old, and now new challenges. We are already halfway through the bicentennial period, with much already accomplished, and this time next year, it will already be time to begin planning and dreaming again. And now, after 4 years of planning, Sandusky's bicentennial is finally here. It's really 2018. For now, I ask that all of you take a moment to soak it in over the next year. The Bicentennial Commission has exceeded our wildest expectations and hopes and has planned an incredible set of large and small events throughout the rest of the year. Even as we continue to plan for and rebuild this great city, take time to learn about our past. 2018 is a time to celebrate Sandusky's amazing past, present, and future. Now, I have experienced, by the way, I'm glad that they moved this, because if they had, you'd miss half of Mr. Wolfser's speech. So that's the person we've come to know and love. And I have experienced many happy days in my personal and professional life, and even a few in public life. In the last category, none have exceeded the day that Eric Wolfser came to work for Sandusky. Please help me to welcome our amazing city.
I'll start the flailing now. Hold on a moment. Can everyone hear me okay?
Great. And I have one more piece of technology that I have to figure out here. It's going to click right. So I should have done that while Dennis was speaking, but it was so good that I forgot. There it is. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank Dennis. That was a really eloquent introduction, and I think very fitting in talking about the role that his fellow city commissioners have played, that the city staff has played, but most importantly, that this entire community has played over the last several years to put Sandusky, as we approach our bicentennial, in the position that we're in today to have momentum. And I've heard once people say, momentum is really hard to get, but it is critical to keep it once you get it. And I think we're in that position now, and so much is possible because all of the hard work and partnership of so many of the people who are in this room today. And so I wanted to start with a few thank yous with folks with whom we partner with who couldn't be here. The city commissioners, Dennis already mentioned, so I don't repeat those names, but we are so thankful for your leadership on so many different issues and the courage that you have demonstrated, the leadership, the urging of the staff toward transparency and compromise. I think as we got into some of those fights that Dennis has talked about over the years in being aggressive, ultimately because we were transparent and because we did show that we were willing to make changes to plans to meet the needs of our citizens. And I can tell you that it is the leadership of the city commission on a day-to-day basis that pushes the staff in that direction. Ultimately, and I will mention many of our staff by name in the speech today because of work that they have led or done, but we do have an amazing team. I am supported and made to look good every day by an amazing group of directors, and I know that those directors are supported by staffs and departments from the highest levels of what we do on a day-to-day basis to literally in the trenches, working on water and sewer distribution and collection systems. We would not be where we're at today without a motivated, ambitious, and aggressive staff. So many of the local institutions and government partners are here today. I see Commissioner Manold, I see Commissioner Monahan from the county. Commissioner Shenigo Sandusky is actually out of town today. We're also been here. Prosecutor Baxter, the Health Department Director Pete Shea. Our partners at the county are critical. Sandusky is the county seat of Erie County, and they have demonstrated great leadership over the last several years that allow us to thrive under their guidance. And so I will get to so many more of you throughout the course of the speech, but we just want to say a special thank you as well to Dr. Sanders and to the school board, because just as a city cannot be strong without a county, it is the county seat, city cannot be strong without a strong school system. And I'll talk a little bit about the transformation plan and what I think that means for the cities, as well as the current building project to the future. But we couldn't have better, more ambitious, or more exciting partners in the Sandusky City Schools, and we look forward to continuing that partnership as well. I'm going to start my remarks today focusing on neighborhoods and blight elimination. And the reason that I want to start there is because as we've had success in areas around the city, as we start to see downtown coming back, as we see Cedar Point, part of Clear County, getting catalytic investment at the Griffin Airport site, one of the things that we often hear is, what about the neighborhoods? And it's hard because I think it's easier to see progress in a very specific place, whether that's 3 block by 3 block downtown, or it is a former airport being transformed into a sports complex, or it's a site that is going to be a brand new school, and you see that beautiful site and everyone covered for that. But the reality is most of our resources, most of our time and energy is spent on a day-to-day basis fighting hard to improve our neighborhoods. And just as the City Commission has encouraged staff on a day-to-day basis to be transparent and compromise, I can tell you the other refrain is constant when we talk about the direction of the city, is they want to see us continue to bring Sandusky back as a place that people can choose to live and have a high quality of life. And I'm just going to go through a few of the programs that I think are critical to that. First of all, housing programs. We have made major investments. Dennis mentioned some of the code enforcement, creation of rental registration program. You know, the regulatory environment around housing, we are much more aggressive. Abating nuisances, we actually had staff of 4 on a seasonal basis that abates nuisances now. That was up from 0 3 years ago to 2 last year. So we continue getting junk out of yards, cutting tall grass, all of those things. But we also have incentives. You know, the City Commission recently partnered with the school board to pass a residential tax abatement program that will be made official by the state sometime early this summer for people who are willing to reinvest in their housing and build new housing in Sandusky. And we think we have a better case to make in that regard than at any point in the recent history. They will receive a 10-year, 75% tax abatement. It doesn't change any taxes that property already owes, but that's an incentive to invest. So we've seen that work really well in other cities. And we think this is the time to roll out a program like that here because we have momentum. We are experiencing our bicentennial. We are building new schools. We are seeing the benefits of the code enforcement that's happening for both commercial and residential properties. People are excited about the plans for the waterfront. They're excited about the downtown coming back. So this is the time to capitalize on the momentum and create this real incentive that will help people. In addition to that, by virtue of the passage of Issue 8, we were able to set aside about $350,000 a year for housing incentives. And we've already exhausted, I just talked to somebody the other day, those funds for 2018 are gone. And what those funds did last year, we were able to impact 245 individual single-family homes in Sandusky. 26 of them were vacant, that are no longer vacant. 48 of them have allowed first-time home buyers to purchase their first home, and 22 of them are families that are new to the city of Sandusky, moving in from the outside of Sandusky. And so I would thank Matt Lasko, Debbie Eversaw, our entire development department, Ariel Blanca, who oversee that program. They make all of that possible. And so those are some things we're doing in housing. But we know that particularly in an urban neighborhood, it is not only the housing that can be what brings or keeps somebody out of the neighborhood. We've invested in neighborhood infrastructure. We have a 5-year capital improvement plan overseen by Public Works Director Aaron Klein and implemented by many folks at the city. We've created sidewalk programs, tree programs. By the end of this year, we will have fully renovated 8 neighborhood parks in the city of Sandusky since the passage of Issue 8. That is up from 1 in 10 years before the passage of Issue 8. So I think that is an example of how we're investing in neighborhoods to improve quality of life. And we often, just as we hear about the neighborhoods, we often hear about streets. We have tripled our local street resurfacing budget. We've created ceiling programs for streets. We are massively investing in streets. We just have a lot of streets, and it's going to take time because we've had to disinvest in those things for a long time by virtue of not having the resources. Another thing that I think is critically important as it pertains to neighborhoods are our community policing efforts. And we have an amazing police chief in John Orzak, and he has structured since the passage of Issue 8 the creation of a community policing division led by Lieutenant Scott Dahlgren. Chris Rankin is in that office, Bronson Willow is in that office, and we added a nuisance. We had an officer who specifically addresses nuisance issues, including animals, all over the city this year, Jamie DeSalle, and he's done an amazing job with that department. And it's not just the community policing division that is aggressively working to build relationships in the community. Every officer, and if you're going to get into a report today, you'll see there are thousands of instances of where our officers are coming into contact with residents in positive ways, so that when they have to be in contact with them in challenging circumstances, those relationships matter and outcomes are improved. So I think community policing is something we're going to continue to enforce. And then finally with neighborhoods, I want to talk a little bit about the Sandusky Neighborhood Initiative. Mary Jane Hill is here today from the Dorn Foundation. We created a position in the Neighborhood Initiative for Talon Floor, Neighborhood Outreach Coordinator, and here with Angie Byington, Casey Sparks, others in our planning department, to do a year-long planning process where we can target investments and build relationships in neighborhoods. We're starting to see those investments pay off. We have a lot of really exciting projects, one of which you can see on the upper left of that picture, where we're going to transform an abandoned, what was I think originally a bank structure, into a welcoming gateway into the historic Erie Boulevard neighborhood. We're very excited about those projects and beautification that are coming out of it, but it's also making differences in really small but very important ways. Just this past winter, as many of you know, we had a really difficult winter. And Commissioner Dave Waddington, I think, was the first one that brought it up. I know Commissioner Brady actively worked on this as well. They reached out to Talon, who reached out to Dora Grant, who's a part of our neighborhood, and they found Pastor Curtis Johnson. And we were able to, the first time in years, actually get warming stations set up in the city of Sandusky. So for those who were, had homes heating that had gone out, et cetera, they had a place to go. And I think that's as much about how those types of small things add up over the course of the community. And again, that was a small start this year. But our ability to do that, to have the capacity on staff to turn quickly to respond, is because Talon's position existed, and because we have strong commissioners and strong community partners like Pastor Johnson and Dora Grant who made that program possible. So those are some things we're doing in neighborhoods. I want to focus just a little bit as well on blight elimination. This is a before picture of American Crayon and the after picture of American Crayon. I think it speaks for itself for how aggressive folks like Matt and the City Commission have been as it relates to clearing vacant property. There's an amazing stat that I want to give some credit to our fire department for. Chief Wilcox and the gentleman in our fire marshal, Steve Rucker, who oversees that program. The amount of vacant commercial properties in Sandusky, and this was in the Akron Beacon Journal last week, because they're actually passing a program in Akron that emulates the program in Sandusky, and other cities reached out as well. It's dropped from 117 in 2012 to 15 in 2018. That is an amazing statistic. And I think, when you think about the fire department, you think about answering calls for fires, and you think about answering calls for emergencies, both through the vacant property registration, as well as the work that the fire department does on prevention. We have been able to utilize resources and relationships to make properties safer for Sandusky residents. And so our fire department does a great job when there is an emergency, but they're also doing a great job in allowing things like American Crayon to happen and having a program that encourages people to rehab their properties and tear them down, that makes Sandusky a safer place on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I want to turn to other things that I think are happening in the city. This is actually a book that I'm reading now, and I bring this up. It's by a gentleman named James Fallows and his wife Deborah Fallows, who's actually a Vermilion native, I've come to find out since I bought the book. He's a writer for The Atlantic, and he wanted to tell a different story about what was happening in small cities all across the heart of America. And so in about 2013, he's a pilot. He had a small plan. He and his wife flew to over 100 small cities over a 4-year period to track their progress, to see what was happening in these places that was working, what was happening that wasn't working. And we actually saw an article, because we wrote articles in The Atlantic about some of these places through that 4-year period, which eventually led to the creation of the book. And one of the articles on Duluth, Minnesota really got us excited because they were a Great Lakes city, cold weather climate, had a lot of problems with globalization that really impacted that city in a difficult way. They actually had a Tall Ships Festival which we were looking to bring for the bicentennial of Sandusky at that time, as well as a lakefront walkway that was 7.5 miles long. That was something that we, similar to what we're doing in the Sandusky Pathway. And so folks like the Dorn Foundation, the Erie County Community Foundation, which is represented here today, gave us some resources to take a group from Sandusky to spend 2 days in Duluth and really look at some of the things that were happening there. So I kind of always followed his work. And then like 3 weeks ago, right, I was just starting to think about what we talked about in the speech. His book came out on that subject, and so I purchased it and was reading it. And I was so inspired by it, not just because of what was happening in those cities, but because so much of what he pointed out as the type of leadership that was transforming communities was also happening in Sandusky. And so he's got the last chapter of that book is actually called 10.5 Signs of Civic Success. And what that chapter does is he basically says, look, we were in over 100 and something cities over this period. There were certain characteristics of the places that were making a comeback that were universal. And there were certain things that if those things didn't exist, it was likely that the city wasn't quite there yet and it wasn't making a comeback. And so we're almost 2.5 years into the bicentennial vision plan. This July will mark 2.5 years into what was meant to be a 5-year plan. So I wanted to provide an update to you as to how we're doing with that plan. But it also became important to make sure that we could explain why those things are in our plan and that we're not just making those up for Sandusky, but we're benchmarking them against what's happening in other places that are maybe a little further along in this or just embarking on their own journey. And so what I'm going to do today is go through those sort of 10 points of civic success and talk about how I think there are great examples of those things in Sandusky. And while we can't officially say we've come back, I think clearly we have that momentum and we're moving in the right direction. So the first point was the communities that are coming back focus on practical, local solutions instead of partisan politics. And actually took a quote directly from the book, which is more often national politics came up in local discussions, the worse shape the town is likely to be in. And I think his thought on that was, if he's flying in town for 3 days, he's coming in to talk about with these people what's working, what isn't. If they're complaining about the state government, if they're complaining about the federal government, that means they're not busy enough locally working together across sectors, with city governments and county governments, finding solutions to bring that city back. And I think a great example is, last year we were very fortunate with the help of the state theater, with the help of Senator Gardner, with the help of Representative Mark, to actually bring the governor of this state to Sandusky. But every person that we talked to, the planning that event, and the hosting of that at the Cedar Point Ballroom or at the state theater, ultimately, we didn't really want to talk necessarily about what was happening at the state level. We wanted to show off to them all the exciting things that we were working on at the local level. And so I think absolutely, I work with people all the time in Sandusky who represent neighborhoods, who represent companies, who represent institutions. And I can tell you 9 out of 10 times or 99 out of 100 times, I have no idea who they vote for. And I think that's critical, is that we're all here, we have different perspectives, we come from different walks of life, but we're here to benefit the community and to make Sandusky a better place. The next phase that I think is also very apropos for Sandusky is it says the phrase public-private partnership actually refers to something real. So the details vary, but the more specifically the community can explain what the public-private partnerships mean, the better. He said that's a term he heard in every single community, but he didn't actually see examples of it in a concrete way in every different community. And I think the last 4+ years in Sandusky have been all about public-private partnerships. And not all of which are directly led by the city, but we benefit from. And I think our own City Hall project, we've known for decades that we probably have to build a new City Hall. We could have built that anywhere, we could have owned that building, but by virtue of partnering with a private investor in that project, we're taking the 3 largest vacant buildings in downtown Sandusky, we're reoccupying them, we're bringing new housing to Sandusky, and we're bringing new businesses to Sandusky. All the while keeping that project in the cost of what it would have taken and really anchoring the downtown. Another one of which, I know the commissioner here from the county, I think the partnership between Erie County and Cedar Point as it relates to the Cedar Point Sports Center is an incredible example of what a public-private partnership looks like. We're already seeing this 1 year into the sports force being open to benefit the local economy of those fields. But we're also seeing as locals. My son played a baseball game at Sports Force just last night. So so there's local leagues playing there, there's people coming into town, and that's a beautiful example. And then the example the city has passed tax increment financing on what's coming next, which is the indoor arena. We're hoping, I know the details of that are still being finalized. If that project goes forward, this tax increment financing district will allow us to continue to invest in things like the Sandusky Bay Pathway. And our ability to do that was through a direct partnership with the Sandusky Board of Education and the Sandusky City Schools, because they saw the value of that infrastructure and these projects going forward to build a stronger Sandusky. Another fantastic, and I would say issue 8 itself is a great example of the private sector and the public sector coming together, creating a plan, and ultimately putting it forward to make the community a special place. I think another really good example was also one of his points, so I called that for this. So the actual statement, paraphrase some of this for the space, is that they either have a research university or they have and they care about the community college. And ultimately, he said, communities can't necessarily choose whether they have one of those, but it's how they're leveraging the ones that exist. And he said, more often that people spoke about the community college, the better we end up feeling about the direction of town. We have a branch campus at Bowling Green in this community, Bowling Green State University of Ireland. They have been a leader for years, but the potential to partner with them and the public-private partnership that they have created with Cedar Fair as it relates to resort management program in downtown Sandusky is such an incredible example. Here's an early rendering of what that project is going to look like. This is going to be an incredible investment in downtown. It's going to bring 200 new residents to the downtown. It's going to bring a classroom facility to the downtown. We couldn't be more excited to be a part of that project, and with the goal of breaking ground by 2019 and opening that facility in 2020. I think that's an incredible example of public-private partnership. It's the power of education. It's investing to create a workforce that ultimately will serve one of our fastest growing industries for full-time jobs in that industry. So we're thankful for those partnerships as well. Also, it said this, I think this was really interesting for Sandusky, because you can pick out the local champions. Who makes this town go? The more quickly this question is answered, the better shape the town is in. And I think it's just, we just put up a few examples. This is not at all an exhaustive list, but I can tell you when I came in and I talked to the commissioners and we were facing revenue issues, ultimately I was sent to go talk to Cedar Fair, to talk to Sandusky Bank, to talk to Fire Regional Medical Center, to talk to our local foundations, to talk to our residents, and we were able to quickly craft a plan that was balanced. It didn't overtax the community, but it allowed the city to get the resources it needs to succeed and to invest those resources according to a plan. So I think the creation of the Issue Aid Coalition, which is ultimately just continued to the Bicentennial Vision Plan, and the celebration of the bicentennial is critical. I think the leadership the schools have shown, and Dr. Sanders has shown, as it relates to the transformation plan of the schools, passing the bond issue to build new schools in Sandusky. And I think the county and Lake Erie Shores and Islands on a regional basis are really helping us build our destination status. I will say, I want to single out to a certain extent because I know a lot of people view Sandusky as a company town, with that company being Cedar Point and Cedar Fair. I want to focus on them because you saw those public-private partnerships. They're involved in so many of those. And a big part of the reason why the Bowling Green State University project came to fruition is because we know they need to be able to continue to attract talent to Sandusky to continue to be based here. We don't take for granted that they have 11 parks in the United States and Canada or more, and then ultimately they have a lot of choices to attract that talent. We need to make sure, and I really like their new tagline this year, that Cedar Point is a place like no other. We just want to make sure every possible opportunity, we're reminding them that Sandusky is a home like no other for Cedar Fair, and we're going to work with the county, and with every town to make sure we continue to be based in Sandusky, continue to be that public-private partner of ours for decades to come. So we're very excited about that and everybody else that makes the town go. What I said, people know the civic story. Like when they came in and they said, what is this town about? What is the essence of this town? It says the value of the story is in giving citizens a sense of how today's efforts are connected to what happened yesterday and what they hope tomorrow will bring. I think that is very apropos for what is happening in Sandusky as well, because I feel like the bicentennial celebration, and I want to thank Commission President Murray for his foresight as early as 2013, say that this celebration would matter. I want to pause and have a round of applause for Bicentennial Commission members who are in the audience today. Everyone is made possible by our Bicentennial Coordinator, Mackenzie Spriggs, who does an amazing job to make sure that that plan is being put in place on a day-to-day basis and the staff to that. But I feel like our story has become, we are a historic city with a milestone date of the Bicentennial that has used that date to remind ourselves of not only how special we are, but of how special we continue to be and can be. And that is a historic waterfront destination, not only for tourists, but for locals and for businesses alike. And so everything that we're doing, and all the momentum that I hear, people are responding to the chance to be a part of celebrating what's already special about Sandusky, but to continue to build on those assets of our history, our diversity, our waterfront, to make Sandusky an even stronger and better place. I want to pick out a few things because I mentioned the Bicentennial Commission, but what's really been exciting is not only those formal planned events that are happening with the Bicentennial, but all over, whether it's Mr. Smith's Coffee having a Bicentennial flavored drink or other businesses. We actually have Eric and Amy from Brick Gallery and Eric's Culture and Clothing here. I think they've done as great of a job as anybody. I know Eric had a special for tuxedos for the Bicentennial Ball that I think he did quite well on. But what I want to raise today, which is good, he wanted to do a ball every year. A lot of people said we should do a ball every year. No one more so than Eric Anderson at Eric's Culture and Clothing. But I had a chance to attend a few weeks ago at a gallery opening at Indian Eric's Gallery. And ultimately, they had local artists come together to do their rendition of The Boy with the Boot. And it was so varied and special, but ultimately, the bicentennial he made more special, this community's more special, not by these grand acts, but by those smaller acts of entrepreneurialism, both social and economic, that collectively make us a better place. And so I wanted to say that and say thank you for that. So we're working really hard to continue to tell Sandusky's story, to continue to be that destination. One of the ways that we've done that through the Commission's leadership is to create a public art commission, and actually dedicate public resources to public art. We're in the process of doing that plan now. We have many members of our public art commission here today. I'd also like to give them a round of applause and to wish them luck. They help us to determine how we deploy those resources to continue to tell Sandusky's story. And there's a hook that's coming to the Cove District soon that was crafted in the tall ships. But the idea is this: the City Commission also was on the front page of the paper today to expand our resources from the bed tax by virtue of tapping into the growing transient rental economy for VRBO, Airbnb, et cetera. We've seen a lot of growth in our bed tax over the last several years. We are dedicated to dedicating some of those resources, about 10% of the total collection of bed tax, for the promotion and programming of Sandusky. And so things that come out of that public art program, as it relates to festivals and programming, as we phase out of the bicentennial and into a new era for how we talk about and focus on the next 200 years in Sandusky, the City Commission has specifically and in a targeted way dedicated resources so that we're not just talking about these things, but that we're investing in these things to move Sandusky forward. And with that, I'll go to what I think is a really important point in the quote is, these cities have downtowns. One of the biggest things that he saw, and what he said, this is probably the quickest single marker of the condition of town. Most of the cities, they paraphrase that, are succeeding, are pouring attention, resources, and creativity into their downtowns. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, I think, this downtown versus the neighborhood themes that tends to emerge really flies in the face of everything that I've seen over the last 15 years or so of actually working with urban development. You know, cities have cores, communities have cores. We decline from the inside out, and ultimately the only way you can really rebuild is from the inside out. And if you're looking at Sandusky's downtown right now, it is a very special place that is still pushing the rock up the hill to some extent, but is getting closer and closer, I think, to being an economic driver and anchor for all of the community. The creation of the resort management program in partnership with Cedar Fair and Bowling Green. The City Hall project is well under construction. They toured it for the first time last week. It should be occupied within a year. We're in the process, very quickly, of selecting the firm that will be designed to build the Jackson Street Pier and Shoreline Drive. So we have anchor institutions coming into downtown. We have major waterfront investments coming into downtown. We've had over 30 new businesses open in the downtown over the last several years. And ultimately, we're very excited that Lake Erie Shores and Islands has decided to bring its visitor and destination center back into the heart of downtown Sandusky. I know Shores and Islands is represented here, as well as Bob Perry, who's helping to oversee the construction of that project. These are just a few examples of what we think is critical. Again, not for the sake of downtown, but a downtown for us has the potential to be an additional Cedar Point, an additional Kalahari, but it's one in which, in addition to bringing people from outside to buy a ticket, can drive the selection of our community as a place to do business or as a place to live. And so downtowns are special. They ultimately have hundreds of stakeholders as opposed to one or two large stakeholders. And so having those stakeholders, they can weather storms a little bit more. I want to focus on a few quick things. A couple of which were in the book. One of the things he said, which I think is kind of cool, is one of the ways they told that a downtown was coming back or not was whether they could stay in the downtown. They said if they had to book a hotel on a road on the way into town, the town was probably not doing as well as if they could book and stay in the heart of the downtown. If they didn't think the downtown was doing well, they know the community wasn't doing as well. And that's a question that we couldn't have answered affirmatively just a couple of years ago. But now, folks up Billboard, I think even more planned investment hospitality downtown Sandusky, you're seeing us become that type of place. The other thing he said is one of the surefire signs that a community is not very bad is whether they're downtown apartments being built on the second and third floor stories of buildings and restaurants and shops on the first floor. And I think, again, for the first time in a long time, downtown Sandusky can answer that question. I also have one more thing that we're excited about. We're in the process of doing a pilot program for clean and safe downtown, so we create that destination experience. We want to pass an improvement district or the process with downtown Sandusky in I know Bob Hare and Alan Griffith and Nikki Lloyd and others who have been part of that process, working very closely with Greg Wolf from our city's planning department. They need 60% of the frontage in the downtown to sign up to be a part of that. We have crossed that 60% threshold, and so next month we'll be introducing legislation to lock that program in for a 5-year period. So we're going to continue to invest. And again, we wouldn't ask property owners in downtown to invest if we weren't making these grants for small businesses to open, if we weren't investing between our city hall and the pier and the shoreline over $20 million of our own resources in the city. I think downtown is such a place that will continue to have an entire city. And the next one was cities that are coming back have distinctive, innovative schools. We talk a lot about urban education challenges, and those are real. You can't go anywhere and have an urban population and not see challenges in school districts. But the places that were dealing with that, creativity and new models of education were the ones that tended to be coming back. And we couldn't have better examples of the leadership that Dr. Sanders and his team and the school board provides. We are in the midst of a transformation plan for our schools. We are in the midst of building new schools, programs from the preschool program that's created with support from the Dorn Foundation to the Regional Center for Advanced Academic Studies to the amazing internship program that Eric Ramin runs in partnership with the schools. Ultimately, we are innovating in the Sandusky City school system, and I know that our partners at Sandusky Central Catholic continue to innovate and look at new models. I feel good about what's happening in education, and the city has little to do with that on a day-to-day basis other than being supportive of the partnership, but it's critical to our success, and the city's success is critical to their ability to keep pushing. So our schools are doing great things. This is a picture actually of the regional center students, and this kind of taps into the waterfront, what makes Sandusky special. This was in the paper last week. They had a chance to go out to Pipe Creek Wildlife Area and learn in a hands-on way how to protect our bay and our lake, because they are the future. And I think that's really important. I just read an article about workforce development and education and the role of that. And this argument by the National League of Cities said one of the best things that you can do with your workforce is to have strong, universal after-school programs and activities for kids. Because it reminded us, and I've learned doing a job like this, that 6 years passes by in the blink of an eye, and that a 12-year-old that's in your after-school program today is going to be your workforce tomorrow, as soon as possible. And so ultimately, whether it's partnering with Sandusky City Schools, whether it's partnering with folks like the Boys and Girls Club, the after-school programming, we want to do more and more to connect the children of Sandusky to the challenges and opportunities of Sandusky, because they will be the leadership of the city in a very short time. In that vein, I want to bring up 2 city programs. We've had a chance to hire Tanya Frisbee, who used to oversee the Nehemiah Center, who's working on youth-related activities. She did the first spring break camp, so that folks had a place to go during the week of spring break this year. We want to continue for her position to partner with those providing after-school programs, partner with those doing programs for youth and recreation and the city schools to give students opportunity for enrichment and success in Sandusky. And then I want to mention one of the things that the City Commission has really pushed for is the creation of a youth leadership program at the Sandusky level. And so Talon's been working very closely with the city schools and Sandusky Central Catholic to create a youth commission. And we just had our first application process this spring, so that ultimately we will have our first class starting next fall. And I get the opportunity to announce the successful applicants for that program. So I'm going to go through the list. If as I say your name, if you could stand, and then say standing until everybody's standing up, so we can give them a round of applause. Tyler Franklin, George Gale, Ricky Duran, Hunter Hayberger, Deshanti Hicks, Ashley Huntley, Carolyn Kennedy, Annie Milky, Wyatt Shank, and Cecilia Yackley. Can we give them a round of applause? And then cities are also welcoming cities. I thought this one was really interesting. I think this is one where we need to continue to strive. Of all the points that were made, the idea, what it said was, there wasn't one city that he visited that wasn't dealing with the issue of brain drain. But demographically, stopping the issue of brain drain isn't enough, especially for smaller cities, because you eventually lose that numbers game. You need to not only keep your own and bring back your own, you need to welcome others. And I think ultimately, we have great opportunities there. I think the millions of visitors that we have to this area every year is an opportunity to showcase them this community is a place to live. The thousands of international employees that folks like Cedar Point are bringing to the community every year is another opportunity to become more welcoming in the national city. But I also think Sandusky, I think where we have succeeded the most is that we're embracing more of our own citizens than we have in the past. I will say one thing that's the most exciting for me, I didn't see this in Cleveland, which is also a very diverse city, at least on my day-to-day basis, is so many of the entrepreneurs who are making Sandusky come back are diverse. Some of them are here today, from Derek Moore and Derek Steiner, Eric Jordan at Next Level Fitness, Blake Harris with the Blue Lights Project, Jim Urban from Sandusky Segway, Cockpet at Small City Tap House. You know, this is a group that looks different than the people who were opening businesses and driving Sandusky's future 50 years ago. And I hope when we come back 50 years from now, we will see that we continue to be diverse and eclectic. And so I couldn't be more excited about the energy. I also want to give our city commission a lot of credit for passing anti-discrimination legislation recently. Ultimately, we are becoming a more inclusive place. I know Commissioner Lloyd has been active in bringing the Pride Festival to Sandusky, which will allow us to continue to celebrate more diversity. And so I think this is an area, let's keep pushing. I think we're making progress, but ultimately Sandusky's success will be driven by and large, not only in our ability to keep our own residents, but to roll out and welcome back for new residents of all types. And I thought this was actually the half of combined with Research University and community college once, so I achieved a little bit. So he said, city on the way back will have at least one craft brewery. There's a little more to the sentence that said they will also have a distillery, or be in the process of building a distillery. And he said that was a little tongue in cheek. The idea of that was, he said, but this let you know that this town had a certain kind of entrepreneur, and also they were supporting certain types of entrepreneurs. I think this is a great example of, and I'm almost done, so I will get moving. But we have a brewery that's about to open, the Bait House Brew Shop. But we've had a lot of fits and starts with the breweries in Sandusky that we've had a little bit of tortured history over the last couple of years. And I think what that tells you is this, is we are right on the edge of taking off. But we have a lot of work to do to make sure that that success is assured. We can never stop doing it. And again, when I think of a brewery, I don't think exclusively of breweries. When we say there's a certain kind of entrepreneur in that town, you know, Sandusky has now certain types of entrepreneurs, I think. They're opening things like breweries, they're opening things like diners and bait shops, ceiling tile restorations. We couldn't be more excited about the type of entrepreneurs that are transforming Sandusky. We've welcomed we gave grants last year to 27 new business operations. One of them was one of our oldest businesses, Andy Dunlop's here from Dunlop Sheet Metal, so that they could stay in Sandusky. But many of them are startups, so we're starting something that's going to be sold, operated, or just a few people. Has the ability to be part of that start. So I think one of the things that he was capturing this, and I think we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, is we've got an entrepreneurial spirit back in Sandusky. And the city has to do everything we can to push, to cheerlead, to invest, folks like Abby and Acadec and our other partners to make sure that those entrepreneurs can continue to be successful. And then finally, I think this is also very fitting. He said these cities have big plans. He said, you know, right from the Atlantic, when he'd hear a governor roll out a plan or he'd hear a president roll out a plan, he'd yawn because they almost never happen or they didn't happen at the scale. But when he was traveling in these cities and heard about these plans, his idea, what he said, his instinct was, I can't wait to come back and actually see that. He said things are actually happening on the ground in local places. And we have a lot of big plans in the midst of a 5-year bicentennial vision plan. We're creating that called DART plan. But one of the plans that we're most excited about, because it spans the entire city and is going to really pull us together, is the Sandusky Bay Pathway Plan. That's a unique, also a public-private partnership with Cedar Fair and the Erie County Metro Parks. I know Amy is here today, where we did a master plan update for a green space that would connect the new Cedar Point Sports Center all the way back into town, and we're updating our Sandusky Bay Pathway plan to the point where for the entire city limit from the west side to the east side, we will have a bike trail. The TIF that was passed both in the downtown and the sports center provides us with an influx of potential revenue with which to pay that. And I know it's critical that we move this plan to implementation as quickly as possible. And so in our first commission meeting in June, we intend to bring the design and engineering of the first phase of the pathway and of Land Park to the City Commission, as well as to do a request for qualifications to bring on a firm to design the entire pathway with the goal of substantially completing the construction of the landing and pathway within 5 years. That's very exciting. We don't want to stop there. Michelle Johnson from Environmental Design Group is overseeing both the landing in Pathway Phase 1 as well as the Pathway Phase 2, her partner, Jeff Kerr, has said he wants to see this expansion of 80 Mile Line Trail. If you look at the trails that ultimately are attracting people from states away to be a part of it, they have scale. And so this is a line that he has drawn that connects from William to Fort Clinton. Now this falls outside of our jurisdiction, but our hope is that by putting the down payment down in the center of Sandusky and partnering with folks like Erie County, like Lake Erie Shores and Islands, like the Erie County Metro Parks, like the counties and jurisdictions this trail has passed through, that we don't stop there. I actually vacation often at a family cabin up in northeastern Minnesota, and they announced a 90-mile Lake Superior bike trail up there like 10 or 15 years ago. I remember thinking, that will take forever. But I've watched over the course of that 10 or 15 years, they have built that trail 4 or 5 miles at a time. Every year there's another section that's get built. We're going to get started as quickly as we can building out this pathway, and then ultimately we hope, just like the momentum of this city, that we keep going. So that concludes my remarks for today, although we do have a video that we want to show that we hope will also capture some of the momentum of what's happening in Sandusky. But thank you guys for listening today. Thanks for your time.
I thought this was a place I probably would not want to stay in for. I thought this was a place I probably would not want to stay in for the long haul. It was okay, but buildings were empty, people weren't walking around downtown, and it just didn't seem all that inviting and welcoming. What kept me around is little by little, I could see the progress happening firsthand. It started with some people taking a chance and maybe even a risk on investing in properties and buildings. And then the city government leadership changed, and then they were doing a lot of progressive and revolutionary things.
Anyone who puts their money, their time on the line to open a business here, start a nonprofit, work with the youth, buy an old, practically condemned home, and chill it and restore it, it takes a lot of guts to do stuff like that. And I think right now the city has a lot of people who have the guts.
Are we in it, or is it just potential still? I mean, clearly we're in it because more people are putting private money into the city. Any idea that has to move forward has to be loved. And you have to love what you're doing, you have to love the people you're doing it with.
I just think it shows that the city of Sandusky is evolving. It's getting a lot better than it was 5 or 10 years ago. More people are expanding their horizons and they're opening up different things for the community to come and join.
You can go to a city commission meeting and you can completely agree or you can completely disagree with what's going on. And it doesn't matter, those opinions obviously have been heard. And it's great that we live in a community where that's actually possible. It's actually requested.
I'm inspired by my city. I'm inspired by the people here. The pride that people in this community are taking is something special. It's a place that keeps me up at night in a good way, just because there's so much to look forward to.
They're preserving the past but moving forward and creating new history, and we're not just dwelling in the past and staying in the past, which is a problem I think with a lot of smaller towns that really hurts them.
even a few years ago, I wouldn't write that many Sandusky stories because there was a lot of infighting between past administrations and city commissions. But today, I don't really report on that much stuff anymore. What I report on today is city commission gives a grant to Barra, they've given a grant to Short House Tavern, they've given a grant to CrossFit Sandusky. They have helped start programs like Clean and Safe run by Downtown Sandusky Inc. They have committed millions of dollars to fixing roads and patching up sidewalks and cutting down dead trees. There's just so much cooperation between business owners, private developers, city officials, in all achieving one common goal to improve the community. I love living downtown. I love walking to work. I love walking to my gym at Next Level and then getting a cup of coffee at Mr. Smith's or Boomtown and then getting something to eat at Far Up or Great Lakes Grinders. I like reporting all these things because I love being a storyteller of Sandusky. I take great pride in informing the community about all the great developments that are happening here in Sandusky. I love seeing the progress firsthand. I make it a point to go to these buildings and my first impression is, wow, look at all this great stuff going on. Then I kind of have to reel it back in and ask my questions, and then I write a story and people read in the newspaper online, and I hope they get that same wow factor that I initially had when I stepped into that building going about that project. There is a lot going on in Sandusky, and I do work long hours, but I don't mind working those long hours because I'm happy to share the progress of our community with readers, both in Sandusky and outside the city. So hopefully, maybe one day, people who don't live here can experience it either for one day, 1 year, or the rest of their lives.
Thank you for speaking to our club today and to the community. The Rotary motto is service above self. You're a great Rotarian. You do a great service to the city of Sandusky. So we thank you for that. I know you have a collection of Rotary mugs, so we tried to pull a different one out here. It's kind of like collecting beer steins. So this will be a different one for your collection, and we thank you once again. Thank you as well. We appreciate everything you do. A couple quick reminders before we draw the meeting to a close. Next week, Rotarians, we will not be here. We will be over at Sawmill Creek at the granary, 5 o'clock for the Mesa bike tour. In the week, then June 2nd, Habitat for Humanity, 745, 2204 Wilbur Street. And then the week after that is Cedar Point Day. So no meeting here for the next 2 weeks. Please sign up for Habitat for Humanity and Cedar Point at the back tables if you have not done so. And with that, I would like everyone to please stand for the Rotary motto and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Service above self. I pledge allegiance